talking about real freedom, not just an idea of freedom, not just an experience, a temporary experience of freedom, but the freedom that includes everything. It doesn't look like anything in particular, but in fact everything in particular. So I feel like there are two strands to what we're pointing to here. One is recognizing your true nature, which is the most fundamental, the most basic, actually the most simple, although it maybe seems difficult when you are trying to do it, or trying to achieve something. Actually, it's the most simple. And then the other strand is how to live as that. Because actually recognizing who you are really is just the beginning. It's the beginning of an endless unraveling that can go on for the rest of your life. So we're not talking about arriving at any particular final goal, but a kind of coming alive as who you really are, life itself. Of course, the thinking, our minds, don't really understand any of this. Or perhaps you may have certain ideas, certain theories, perhaps you've read certain books, or you have certain spiritual concepts. But really, those concepts will never fit the reality. They will always be limited. They will always be implying that life is like this and not that. Life should be in a certain way and not in a certain other way. But actually, recognizing who you really are, that you really are life itself, freedom itself, love itself, wholeness itself, awareness, consciousness, all of those words, that you are that already, actually is the freedom to live as that in the daily experience. So it's not that you have an experience of recognition and that's it, it's done. Actually, any experience of recognition comes and then goes. Then there's the next experience, and the next experience. And it goes on and on. There's no case of resting on your laurels, resting on what you think that you've got or experienced. It's forever free-falling, never landing in any solid knowing that you can really rely on. And for the thinking, this is terrifying. It's far too free for the thinking. We're talking about real freedom. Not just an idea of freedom, not just an experience, a temporary experience of freedom, but the freedom that includes everything, that doesn't look like anything in particular, but in fact everything in particular. And this can be incredibly confusing for the thinking, because the thinking just wants to pin it all down and say it's this and not that. It can be frustrating, irritating for the thinking. And what we're pointing to is continual undermining of the thinking, and yet still including the thinking as a useful tool for living in this world, but not in charge, not the boss of it all, not actually who you really are. So you are not who you think you are, because who you think you are is simply a thought, a belief, an idea, appearing in who you really are. You are freedom itself, wholeness itself, already. There's somebody at the door. Often we wonder whether any experience of recognition, whether it's happened to me yet or not, whether I've got it yet, and how will I know that, and what's the confirmation for that. And annoyingly, you'll never have that confirmation. Because whatever kind of confirmation that you think you have is yet again another thought. And yet, this can be known in a way that is beyond thinking. To simply knowing that you are not what you think, already that leaves you with nothing to hold on to. If I'm not what I think, then what? And of course, the thinking will want to supply more answers to that question, to fill the gap, the emptiness. But it's just simply another thought and another thought and another thought. Continually seeing that I'm not what I think. Then what are you left with? Sensations may be felt, feelings, physical sensations, waves of energy physically felt. Thought maybe comes in again, supplying answers, labels for what it's all about, for what it all means. But again, I'm not what I think, so those thoughts and labels are irrelevant. They can be here, again, as that useful tool for living in this world, but they're taken very lightly. They're not actually taken to seriously, really mean that I am those thoughts. Thoughts just come and go. Sensations are felt. Subtle sensations or gross sensations, the whole range of whatever is here. And no matter what thought says about any of it, thought really doesn't have a clue. It doesn't know. Whatever is felt, experienced, is just felt and experienced. It doesn't ever mean anything about me. It's never actually contained inside any me that I think. Without believing in what I think, then I am unlimited. Because every thought only limits. Without buying into those limiting thoughts, where are the limits? They're just sensation felt. Meaningless sensation felt. And I say meaningless because the only meaning is in thought. Without believing in thought, there is no meaning for anything that happens. It simply happens. You could say it simply happens in freedom. Absolute, ultimate, endless, limitless freedom. But even that word is somehow limiting. It's freedom beyond the word freedom. And then the other strand that we mentioned of the living of this, in feeling the sensations that are here in the limitless freedom that you are. There's no boundary that separates or protects me from the rest of life. There's no boundary or separation between me and you, other than in thought. But if thought is not believed to actually mean who I am, then where is the boundary? Where is the separation? And in knowing this, there is more and more living as this. Not through any trying to live as this, because that trying would be, once again, thought with its ideas about how to live. But not buying into any thoughts, just noticing them all come and go. Knowing that they're absolutely meaningless. Just appearing in the freedom that you are. Feeling the sensations just as they are. Noticing the experiences happen just as they are. What I notice in my own experience is that the living of this happens by itself. This body thing is touched by this knowing of the freedom that I am. This no longer buying into the thoughts. not believing that all the thoughts actually mean real limitations or restrictions. More and more this body is nourished by that knowing. And more allowed to live as the freedom that I am. Somehow this knowing, this unlimited freedom, is the permission that this body longs for to actually live freely, more and more and more. So the permission or the right to live as you really are, or to be as you really are, whatever that is for you, doesn't really come from thinking that you have the right to be, or believing that, or it doesn't come from some kind of positive affirmation. It comes from actually recognizing who you really are. You are already free. You are already whole, complete, full, life itself, overflowing into this expression of yourself. And knowing that, without even holding on to it mentally, but just knowing it in your recognition, in your deeper knowing, this body slowly relaxes more and more in a lived experience. So I'm not saying that suddenly all the tension falls away from your body and you skip off into the sunset. No, it's not really like that, although who knows, you could have an experience like that. But it's more that in knowing that this body doesn't even need to live in a free way, that is the freedom for it to live in a more free way. In it not needing to be in any particular way or according to any spiritual ideas or any ideas at all, in it being completely free to be fucked up, to be completely free to be a complete mess, to feel the pain, the fear, the anger, whatever it is, to feel the holding back, the shyness, the tension, all of the humanness that is here, in that utter freedom for it to be here just as it is. This actually is the freedom for it to relax. In it not needing to relax, it can relax. Without needing to push it or force it to relax, which of course is ridiculous. How can you force anything to relax? But we keep trying to do that on the spiritual path. But in feeling the tension as it is, it's okay to remain tense for the rest of your life. It's okay to remain absolutely terrified and in agony for the rest of your life, for it to get worse, for it to absolutely kill you. And in that okayness, it is free to relax more and more when it totally doesn't need to relax. So it's about meeting whatever is here just the way it is, without some ulterior motive to try and fix it. this is the biggest unconditional love that there is. And it doesn't come from anybody else or anything else. It only comes from you. Unconditionally loving whatever is here. Just the way it is. Even if it doesn't fit into any of your ideas about how it should be. Even if it breaks the mold completely. That is freedom. Freedom to live and to be just as you are. That is freedom. Freedom to live and to be just as you are.